Hey, all you beautiful spirits out there. The Luv-A-Lution podcast, episode number 3. Four, excuse me. So excited to have the one, the only, the truth warrior goddess, the trauma-based mind control deactivator, the mentor, healer, an author, a mother, content creator, researcher, and a just amazing all-around being, Marja West. How are you today? Thanks for being with us.
Hi, sweethearts. I am fabuloso in the heat in the high desert. How are you both doing?
Wow.
And Sebastian. Hi, Sebastian. Hi, sweetheart. Mwah.
He's
Oh.
got
Hi,
his monkey.
cutie.
Yeah, we're doing very well.
We're good. We're in a rain. We're in the rainforest. Basically, it's been raining for weeks here, and yeah, it's
Lots of water for the plants. All the vegetables are happy, and
We
so
could
we
use
just
some
had a
of that
salad
up
from the
here.
garden. So everything's going good.
Beautiful.
yeah, it's extremes. We're kind of So yeah, we were just wanted to get right into it with you, and we know about parenting and how the first 7 years are very crucial, and we wanted to get right into knowing who you are and how were your first 7 years on this planet, and where were you brought up and all that good stuff.
Okay, cool. Well, I am the result of a one-night stand. I mean, what can we say about that? And I didn't know that until many years later. So I was conceived in not the most honorable whatever. And I felt that. I really felt that. I was a late birth in that I was almost a month late. And so I was actually induced by midwives. And my mom is part Filipina. And so I was born there by midwives, and they chose my birth time and the birth date just based on their own whatever was going through their minds. I have no idea, because my mom was very unconscious and not very happy with being pregnant, not being happy. She didn't want to be a mom. I mean, she told me that time and time again. So I really, I gestated in her body, in her womb, under duress, I would have to say. And I actually have memories of just her own self-hate, her own animosity toward me, just the whole thing of not wanting to be a mom, being inconvenienced, feeling the burden of this pregnancy, this hostile takeover of her body. And so when I was born, I did not want to nurse from her. And I was actually very ill from her trying to nurse me. And I ended up nursing off of one of her sisters who just had a baby. And I nursed off of my auntie, which is really very strange. So that was kind of the beginning. And many years later, my mother even bragged about trying to snuff me with a pillow, because she just wasn't prepared. And so I think part of I have a lot of compassion for her as well. And we're not on speaking terms, but it's so, when you are conceived under those circumstances, and you grow in your mother's body under those circumstances, you have a lot of sort of insight, I think, into like I like to see both sides of the proverbial coin. I also like to see the many facets of other people's realities. Okay, so she grew up in during war-torn times. So her first 7 years was during the Japanese occupation of the Philippine Islands during World War II. And her family was actually on the Japanese hit list. And so they hid underground. So I learned over the years just these different sort of facets of her life, even though she's a little nuts and she's very rageful and vengeful and mean spirited. But I think for myself, developing in that environment, you have two ways. You either end up like them, or you go to the complete opposite. And that's what I did. I went the complete opposite, and always had compassion for her, always tried to see things the way she saw things, not necessarily agreeing with it, but, coming from that place of, she's been so traumatized, she doesn't know better. And so that's pretty much it. And anyways, we immigrated to America when I was actually very young.
It was we're
what was that?
So did your mom? The next question was, did they instill a can-do attitude, or did they say a can't-do attitude in you?
It was mostly, you can't do that. You can't do that. Who do you think you are? But I was, to my credit, I was a big pain in the butt because I'm very forthright. I was very forthright from a very young age, always asking questions. And some of my earliest memories is my mother, just going to her room or going to another room and closing the door on me, or going like this, no more questions, that sort of thing. Because I was just totally curious about what this life was about, and I wanted her to love me. So I was always, chasing after her, and she's always trying to get away from me. Which is interesting because it is a theme that has continually played out in the outer theater of my life over the years. Just the sort of template of rejection, of feeling isolated, feeling like I don't belong, feeling like, where's my home? Where's my family? So I think over the course of time, I've always had that kind of sensitivity. So I tend to, like I was stepmom to a bunch of rejected kids whose parents were just, they were just AWOL. And so that's been a theme in my life, and which plays out in terms of the work that I do, because most people are just like me. They've been orphaned, abandoned, neglected, cast out, rejected, dejected, alone. Just trying to figure out where they belong. And I know that feeling very deeply. So I'm very tuned in to wanting to be inclusive of people. So that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It wasn't the ideal upbringing, but it really created that strong warrior that you are today.
Yeah, and I also pretended I was a magic fairy.
We love that.
Yeah,
pretending I was a fairy, because that was my way. I spent a lot of time outside. My mother, to her credit, was a beautiful gardener. And so she had hundreds of rose bushes and all kinds of flowers and plants inside and out. And I've taken that on. But as a child, that was kind of my refuge, was to be outside with the flowers. I foraged a lot of times, I would just find flowers and start eating them. Never got poisoned. So I think I was, I have the skills to know what plants were actually kind of edible and where you could partake without.
You were Wow. You were connecting to your true mother out there.
Yes.
Out in nature, your true mommy. That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So do you have pets at home, Marja?
I don't have pets right now, but I'm probably the weird cat lady. That's what I relate to the most. And up until just back in 2019, I did have one cat that was left, and unfortunately, I was living mostly in Europe at the time, and so I have not been able to bring myself to get another pet. I do have lots of critters where I am. So I've got a family of deer, does and bucks and their little babies. They come and lay around on my front yard, which I'm in.
That's awesome.
Sandia Mountains. And I've got a bobcat that spends a lot of time on my deck. And wrecking one of my chaise and peeing on my door. So it's like, dude, really? Like, okay, you're welcome here, but don't wreck my shit.
Yeah,
don't leave stinky stuff. The animals I really, really love, and when I was raising the boys, they brought home snakes, scorpions,
Scorpions.
Oh yeah, scorpions, and then the vinegaroons, which eat the scorpions, spiders, all kinds of really, really cool stuff, frogs and turtles. So I like all that stuff, and I had them as a child as well. So they're my friends. I'm into it.
That's great. Yes, we're all connected energy. And
yes.
yeah,
and
they're conscious.
They know you're not going to hurt them, or they know that they know you're in their territory. So I think they're very watchful, because I've had instances where, like, for instance, a UPS driver came to make a delivery and knocked on my door. And there's the whole family of deer and the bucks and the little babies are still out there, and she's just she's making all this noise, and she's going, they're not even moving. And I go, because they know that you know me, you're not going to hurt them, and they're just hanging out, So I think that's really, really cool.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we can all get along with the animals.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll get another cat or a dog. I mean, I talk about it, but I think for me, a lot of that has a lot to do with the sort of grief that I carry. Because in the last 10 years, I've experienced a lot of loss, where I've had relationships go, several suicides of close people. My stepdaughter last year, my partner's brother the year before. So there have been all these losses. My longtime assistant passed away all of a sudden in 2018. And two of my mentors also passed away, like within months of Sabina's death. So I've had these tremendous losses where, even for somebody like me, who at this age, you'd think I'd be used to stuff. I'm not, and I think for me, grief is like, it's like a golden thread that moves throughout the whole of my life. Like since I was since I was conceived, I'd have to say. So I hold that. And there's a part of me that's like, okay, well, maybe we don't need to exacerbate that or activate that by getting attached, but we'll see. We'll see, because the critters love me and I love them. And my stepkids have cats and I'm attached to them. So maybe
we love cats.
Yeah, but I have hundreds of houseplants, though, as you can see. So I'm attached to them.
Yep.
Oh, their consciousness, and they help clean the air in your house.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's your connection to the infinite with them as well.
Yes. Very much.
Yeah, they teach us stillness. Yes. So what's a day in the life of Marja like?
Well, I'm an early riser, so I'm up at 4:30 every morning, and I don't set an alarm. I don't have to be anywhere. So I've been lucky in that when I was young, I saw the reality of the sort of enslavement of doing a corporate job, a job in academia, a job as an entrepreneur where you have to travel and do sales. So I've done all of that. So I've done the university life, I've done the corporate life, I've done the sales life. I was also a touring musician for many, many years. And it's like, I'm not commuting. I'm going to commute down a ladder. And that's what I did when I was living in California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, as I call it.
San Francisco.
It's like, I'm not doing that shit. I'm really not doing it. So I had a loft. I'd go down the ladder. That was my commute. And so I really made it a point to design my life so that I would not get caught up in that kind of, no. And
alarm clock every day. Yes.
Oh, that's what we're trying to align with. Yeah. We don't use an alarm. We don't have 9 to 5.
Right. With the circadian rhythms. So I'm aligned with nature.
The birds wake you up. Yes.
They really, really do. And so the birds, so I wake up 4:30 whenever my eyes open, and 4:45, 5 o'clock, the birds start. And they are so cute because there's a call and reply, and just they're very cute. But every now and again, you can hear one of the neighbors go, "Shut up!" just screaming at the birds. And the birds, they want to raise hell, so they get actually louder every time somebody tells them to shut up. It's funny. So I just delight in that because it's nature. It's nature's call.
It's beautiful.
So I do that. I wake up. I've got my routine. I take a walk. I hike. And it's nice to be able to do that because earlier in the year, you guys know, I had a ski accident trying to ski for the first time, being led by a psycho who just put me on skis and then had me on a lift right away. I mean, that is just crazy. And it took me 4 months to get better from my torn meniscus, and also I had a concussion. That wasn't fun. So it's nice that I've recovered from that and I can do my hikes because it was really starting to get a little depressing, not being able to move freely. But, now that the weather is super, super hot and super, super fun to be out, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
So fitness is really important for me because there's just way too many people who are just way too sedentary. I don't have a television. I don't.
Good for you. Kill your TV. Yes.
Yeah. Kill your TV. I haven't had a TV in my personal space probably since the 80s. And it wasn't even all that.
Good for you.
Because I was working.
We need more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing. We got to just kill our TVs. That would create a lot of positive feedback, I think, if we just all threw them out the window.
I agree. Or be at least discerning, because most people are streaming off their computers. You know, just be
True,
discerning.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, how we're about self-love, raising consciousness. And our question for you is how can humanity, how can we love ourselves more and pull our heads out of our rear ends?
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason why a lot of us have our heads up our rear ends is because we don't know ourselves. And so really getting to know, for instance, what is it we don't like? Because we learn so much better through contrasting experiences. So quite often, like, there's so many people that I see, especially around in my immediate universe, my layer of the universe. Like when I'm outside, there are people, it's over 100 degrees here, and they're wearing double masks outside.
Wow.
You know, and they see me, and, you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning when I'm starting to walk, and they're like, they see me and they stop, and they're backing the hell up and going across the street. And it is very weird to me, because it's like, what is going on? What is this disconnect here that's happening? And a lot of these people, they're not even on foot. They're actually on a mountain bike. And I'm at 7,000 feet elevation. So it's like, you got a double mask on a mountain bike at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, so
it's so
conversation with these people and ask them what's going on. I mean, are they even asking themselves what is going on with them internally to even go about and try to suffocate yourself? I know
you're over a mile high up there. Wow.
Yeah,
you're over a mile high up with 2 masks on.
It's very, very strange. So I want to broach that conversation, and you know, there's not a lot of openness with that. And why is that? So I think the conversation about, well, how are you feeling about that? Why? What is the mechanism that's making you do that? Are you even questioning your reality? And I think that is one of the keys for self-knowledge. Learning deeply about your self-care, about your self-love, like what's behind that. Have I lost you guys? I think it's scrolling. Anyways, I'm just going to continue on talking. Hello? Are you guys there? I think you guys are coming back. Looks like it.
Yeah,
there you
sorry,
are.
Honey.
That's okay.
Hey.
Okay, where's our camera? Let's see. Okay, edit avatar. Where are we?
When I can see me, buddy.
Oh, we're gonna come on. We're here. You can hear us, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think she can.
Totally.
Start camera here. Sorry.
There we are.
That's okay.
All right. So, Mario, how do we know ourselves?
Well, asking questions.
Yeah, how do we take our heads out of our asses?
Yeah, I think just asking questions.
Beautiful, yeah.
In terms of our reactions, our reactivity to what's going on. I know that for me, one of the questions that I used to ask myself as a little girl was, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? And then that evolved into, what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
thinking that way. So, it starts within, and then, I learned early on, especially, I read the Hermetic when I was 12.
Oh, your bag is all the way down
And so,
Wow, yeah, we heard you say that. That's amazing.
so the reality.
How did you get introduced to that?
A neighbor left me a box of books. They were moving and thought that I would like these books. And so it was a bunch of books. One of them was the Kabbalion, which actually smelled like cat piss because their cat was disturbed by all the boxes, and this cat had sprayed everywhere. And so anyways,
That's hilarious.
Smelled like piss. But nonetheless, there was the Kabbalion. There was also a book by Maxwell Maltz called Psycho-Cybernetics, which I highly recommend. I love those books. And the Gulag Archipelago just come out. I mean, it was just fascinating. I think it was the Gulag Archipelago, or it might have been. I think it was a bunch of Dostoevsky books. So I got into that sort of depressive Russian turn of the century craziness, and was like, wow. And so I have some Russian background in me on my father's side, and that is just like, I see why I have this sort of thread of a lot of existential angst and a lot of sort of depression and fatalistic sort of thinking, because for a long time I thought, wow, the world is going to hell in a handbasket and there's nothing I can do about it. It's just going down. So I was with Nietzsche. It's like, we're just going the wrong way, and there's nothing we can do. I just let go of the cart and let it crash. But I also know from reading the Hermeticum that I got to change and up level my way of thinking to get away from that, because that is not what I want to. I don't want to adhere to that. I don't want to focus in on the worst case scenario. I mean, that can be useful, but I think ultimately it doesn't lead to self-knowledge. It leads to a lot of self-destruction. And it doesn't give us the opportunity to actually work the principles one by one, particularly the first one, the law of mentalism. And it just keeps us sort of, I think, circling the toilet bowl, and keeps us from not getting to know ourselves, getting to know how we think. Well, why am I thinking this way? And start questioning those thoughts. So me asking, whoa, what's wrong with me? Or asking, what's wrong with my mom? Why is she like this? And so I did a lot of I love journals. So I would just write these questions and sort of answer them stream of consciousness. And that was always fascinating for me. And a lot of times, my answers would be the same. And then every now and again, something would like spark, and I'd go, wow, that's not come up before. And so I would like focus in on that new little kernel of expansion and go with it. So, I did a lot of internal stuff because I was mostly
Awesome.
I didn't have a lot of friends.
And you wanted to fix yourself, get better.
I wanted to understand.
Like a diamond.
Yeah, I wanted to understand, because I have that juxtaposition of when I was focused in on being a magical fairy, magical things happened. Like I've had so many interesting cosmic experiences that have to do with interfacing with other dimensional realities. other timelines. And then if I got caught up in the sort of mundane of, say, focusing in on my mother's negativity or her being scary or whatever, that the consequences of having that focus were immediate and abrupt. So I think this is one of the things that I really endeavor to instill with the people that I work with is not only do we have to look at our traumas and our thought patterns, but we have to learn how to wield reality and mold it to our liking. Because, reality is moldable. There's over 8 billion people on the planet. And so to think that we're all having the same reality is complete. It's just ignorant to even say that, because we are each creating our own layer of our universe. And if that's the case, and the world or the universe is mental, the all is mind, how about playing with up-leveling thoughts? See what happens. And I started playing with that when I was 12, and I was doing it before that, pretending I was a fairy. So
good for you.
Just playing around with reality and realizing, the world is not the planet. The world is the matrix, as far as I can tell. And the planet is part of the quantum field universe. And when we can operate more from that awareness, that which I call our awakened state, rather than being mesmerized by that outer screen or mesmerized by our reactivity to the outer screen that's going on in here, I notice, wow, things change very, very, very quickly. And I think that and I think this is the danger that I think a lot of what I call the truthers, the fake truth and freedom people, the one who want to hate, the one who want to create another totalitarian shit show, pardon my French, of it is all this way or you're not one of us, like vegans going to war with other people or other belief structures, all that kind of stuff. We're each creating our own reality. So, and I do understand objective reality. There's a right and a wrong. I get that. But I don't know one person that doesn't have at least one foot in the matrix, endeavoring to figure out how to waltz in and out of it, utilizing the various systems that we call shitstones to our advantage.
Can I just keep it?
I don't know if that makes sense, and I probably just opened up a whole can of worms.
No, that's great. Yeah,
that was awesome. Very helpful.
That makes a lot of sense. I like the world is. Yeah, the world is the matrix. The earth is our mother.
Yes.
And did they tell you were bipolar or
no, they did not
try to put you in any loony hospitals?
I was given Ritalin when I was 6 because I was, my mind is really, really fast. And I was very, very physically active. So my mother put me in gymnastics, in dance class. It learned this music instrument and that and that and that and that and that, just to wear me out. But I was just very curious. So I was given Ritalin, and I took it once, and I felt my consciousness recede out of my body. And I refused. I was never going to take that again. So I pretended to take the pill, and I actually put it in the philodendron in the family room of my mom's house. And that plant went crazy. It was all over the ceiling, all over the walls, but there was no way. And I don't do pharmaceuticals. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm allergic to all of that. Good for you. So, which is ironic because when I was in my 20s, I used to sell insurance. That was one of my jobs that I had. So I sold fire and casualty and life insurance when I was in my 20s. And I was not part of that. I didn't have that stuff. I would rather take responsibility for my own health care than sign up for any of this stuff because I knew it was a lie.
Good for you. Yeah.
It did make me very popular. That's for sure. And you make choices, and there are consequences to it, as you both know.
Yes. So this next question leads. Have you spent a night behind bars?
I have. Wow. Yes, I spent an entire weekend in the drunk tank. That was one thing, and then I've also been detained internationally for resembling a very, very naughty woman, and anyways, they let me go after 72 hours, put me on a plane back to Heathrow. And it was really weird. So, I've been
in London.
I was in Israel when I was detained, and then they let me go, and I was supposed to be going to a wedding of a friend on my way to Munich, and I never made it. My friends wondered, where is she? And by the time they let me go, 3 days had passed, and they sent me to Heathrow, and I'm terrified. I had to have security literally pick me up to the plane so that I can get on a plane back to San Francisco. I was terrified. I was terrified that they were like in a dark room or whatever. And what was shocking about that is that somehow they knew every place that I'd ever gone to the entirety of my life. So I had no idea. I had no idea how that was going on, how that happened. But, so it was one of my interfaces with the Matrix world, that the Matrix world is not quite and that there are, little nooks and crannies of that reality where you can find yourself stuck. And it was very, very, very strange. And I was already immersed in doing my work with survivors of trafficking. So I'd been to some very, very dark places, and I got questioned about these places. I'm like, how do they know about this? How do they know about any of this stuff? So I've interfaced with some things where it kind of creeped me out that we are being watched, we are being surveilled. And this was before 9/11. So
yeah, indeed.
Yeah, it's very, very strange, So it makes you wonder. But what it's done for me is it's like, okay, I've been surveilled, I've been detained, I've been arrested, I've been, whatever. I'm still here. And I'm still here because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not harming anybody. I'm not harming myself.
Yeah, good
and
for
you've
you.
been deplatformed. All that stuff.
I've been deplatformed, and I think they've done a good job just in terms of making me look insane. So you can actually utilize that to your advantage because people just kind of leave you alone. There's a default. Oh, she's just harmless. She's some new age princessa, and I am not a new age princessa at all. The new agers hate me just as much.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the beauties of not belonging to a group and belonging to yourself, having a set of ideals, having a set of, what's your moral code? What are your values? I know what my values are. My moral code is very black and white. Natural law is very, very black and white to me. And I do my best to like really line up with it. And sometimes I do a great job, and other times I don't do a great job, and I just pick myself up and I try to do better each and every time. I mean, you guys know what that's like. It's like,
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. And love yourself no matter what. Forgive yourself and just pick yourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the self-love is so crucial.
Yeah. And we don't have
the
training for that, because a lot of self-love and self-care has been hijacked by a lot of narcissism and and psychopathy. That if you somehow put yourself as a focus, that makes you a narcissist or a psycho. No, it doesn't. It does not.
No,
it
absolutely
makes
not.
You full so that you can fulfill your mission. And for me, fulfilling my mission is, this is my reason for being.
It's not almost done.
And we all have a reason for being, and we have to discover
Yes.
It's not a matrix script that we're
Nice.
bored.
So some of your So in some of your work, Marja, we're learning from shifting from being victims to victorious. Can you speak on that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I like utilizing our PTSDs, our pains, traumas, suffering, and dramas, our traumas as gateways to waking up, as an opportunity to step out of the matrix and just really witness your life and taking stock of how you're living. Are you living your truth? Are you living from some script that you need to write yourself out of, perhaps? Are you living from a place of consciousness or from a place of reactivity? And in order to be victorious, you have to say, I am victorious. You have to notice what you're saying I am to, in terms of, your life trajectories. I mean, we all have a story. And I know this one, I used to identify with being a victim. And guess what? It just created more victim consciousness, this sort of woundology of my story and ain't it awful and and a lot of people get off on that. It was a bummer for me. It's like, oh my God, here we go again. And honestly, I just woke up one day and I was bored. I was bored by it. I was sick of saying it. And so I know that on a lot of interviews, I am very aware of the repetitive nature of some of our stories. So I'm very careful in terms of, what it is that I offer, because I do have a story and I'm not saying I am to it. It is the trajectory that got me to say I am to my true nature. And I think that's what people have to do. Especially when we're looking at our traumas and we're doing shadow work, we're doing the great work. We each have a trajectory, a journey from darkness to light. And it's a continuous thing. It's not a one-off event, because I'm constantly making mistakes, or constantly having this realization that what was this epiphany and this great thing 10 years ago is actually a crutch for me now. And I need to stop. I need to stop my identification with something that served me 10 years ago and is no longer serving me. And so, you know, we're constantly evolving, and, you know, we're ever becoming, ever evolving, moving formless into form. That is our true nature. And so to give ourselves permission to really look at the identitarian stuff to our victimhood and all our stories. And I like to practice the spiritual journaling thing of revision. Any story that I have that is a bummer that I repeat, where I'm either a victim or I'm being a bully or whatever, I like to rewrite it in a way that I get to see myself as ideal. Or if I am, say, coming from a place of lower consciousness or lower awareness, where I can utilize that as a way to turn the story around such that I respond in an ideal way, where even if I am, say, identifying as a victim, I can actually rewrite it in a way where I can be an empowered victim and notice where I go unconscious in that rewrite. And I find those exercises to be extremely powerful. And when I work with people, I have them do that. A lot of them, you know, some of my clients and students, they dig it. A lot of them never want to talk to me again because it's too hard for them to extricate themselves from that identity because they just get off on it. I know so many people that love their stories. They want to blame their mom. They want to blame their dad. They want to blame their exes. They want to blame Gooberman. They want to blame Trump. They want to blame Biden. They just want to go on and on and on. They just love it. And I'm just like, I'm here. I'm like this, whatever. Okay, go somewhere else because you and I, we're not going to get along. You know, you want to circle the toilet bowl. And I'm down. People can have that choice, but they just don't need to be working with me, you know. Because I'm not about that. We are the master creators of our reality in our lives. And
yes, absolutely.
Moving to victorious requires an up-leveling in mindset, an up-leveling in your script of your life, which you get to rewrite at any given moment. And so it bums me out when people don't want to do the work, or they want to pretend they're doing the work, which is always perplexing to me, you know. But they are creating their own layer of reality, and you know, for a moment there, we were interfacing in our realities, and you know, I can only attempt to inspire. I can't make people do it. And it's ultimately their choice. So I've had to like learn how to be okay with people wanting to remain stuck or wanting to remain unconscious, you know. So that's been a
that's been hard. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yes, because no one can pull their head out. Excuse me, you can't pull anyone's head out of their own arse. They have to do it themselves, right?
Yeah. And hopefully I can inspire because, you know, but then you can't. You can't always inspire people. And sometimes your story can actually piss people off and make them really, really upset. And, you know, I mean, some of the hate mail that I get, I mean, I can't believe that people actually spend the time to like write me an email that, you know, if I printed it out, it would be 7 pages long of teeny tiny print. It's like, wow, that's just crazy to me.
Why?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible.
but it points to me the level
It's
of
sad to
pain.
see.
Yeah, the level of pain that some of these people are in. And you know, my heart goes out to them.
Can I go and play with you?
So, Marja, when did it dawn on you that you wanted to write a book? Or when was that idea,
well,
and how did that come about?
It had to be 2003, 2004. I was teaching in Bulgaria, of all places, and I have friends there, and I was doing a training, one of my trauma deactivation practitioner trainings, and there were several students there. We had gotten to a sort of every now and then we have these experiences as a group, you know, because this group that I work with will have sort of flavor in terms of just the vibe. And this training was, I call it T-bone energy, where there was like one T-bone after another. These were harsh realizations. And so Bulgaria is part of Eastern Europe. And there were a lot of people who had survived the war in Bosnia and Yugoslavia and all of that. And I used to have a Croatian boyfriend. And anyways, one of his cousins was actually doing the training. And she just said, you need to write a book about all of this stuff because people are going to relate to it, because my trajectory, even though it's my story, it's not an original story.
No, stop pinching me.
You know, and so these golden threads of being unloved by your mother or being rejected by mother, not having a father, going through the process of war, human atrocities, all of this, and all these ladies, and there were two men, had gone through this, and so anyways, I sort of planted the seed, and I was horrified. Like, oh God, okay, you know, that would create a lot of controversy in terms of telling your story and being sort of outed in public. That was just terrifying to me. It's like, oh God, you know, do I want to be that candid? And it's like I realized, and my students reminded me, you're always candid. You're not going to be doing anything different. You're just going to be yourself. And so with Sabina, my assistant, she made it very, very clear, because I would do these talks and these teachings, quite often she was there with me, because she was my assistant. So she had actually collated a lot of the recordings and had transcribed them. So the content, a lot of the material of the book was already written, and it just needed to be organized. And so so we actually did that. It still took 10 years, you know, to like put out the first.
Good for you.
And so I've got a third edition of the first book, and the second and third book, I'm going to have it in one volume. And that's really kind of my baby that I'm like really, really working on, which is one of the reasons why I'm not pumping out videos like I was for the first 3 seasons of my YouTube, or it was twice a week. That's just too much. I have a lot of writing that I do on a daily basis to, you know, I'm not the same person that I was 20 years ago in 2003, 2004. You know, I was in my 40s. I'm in my 60s now. The world has changed. And so updating the content of the book and the books is like, it's part of my evolution to update and to come to the conclusions, different conclusions, because my previous conclusions are incorrect or outdated, outmoded. So I'm very candid with that.
Wow. So
That's
can you tell us how many countries you've lived in and which countries?
I have visited over 100 countries. I think a lot of the countries aren't even countries anymore. But I've lived all over Europe. I've lived all over Asia. I think my most favorite place where I've ever lived or ever spent time, excuse me, that's more correct. I love the Orkneys. I have a thing about northern Scotland. Very, very cold. It's very foggy. It's very dark. It's gray. It rains. It's extremely cold. But I have a thing about the Orkney Islands and the Hebrides. Don't know why. I'm sure I've spent important past lives there of being very quiet and pastoral and probably isolated. But that's kind of my thing. I'm not a city person. And I lived in San Francisco for 36 years. I lived there and raised other people's kids, did the whole 9 yards. And I think back to it and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Because I like being in the mountains where I am now. Am I losing you guys again? And so being up in northern Scotland is like, it feels like my second home. So hopefully we'll get you guys back. Hello.
We're back.
All right. Could you still hear me?
We couldn't.
No, we lost you.
Okay, because I was still yakking just in case. But I was talking about just my affinity. I was born in the tropics, but my affinity to the Nordic region. When I got to know my father's mother after he passed away, I did not know him. I got to visit her, and she's part Finnish, Russian, Chinese, and Mongolian, and I look like her. We're the same size. So I got to travel to Finland. I like the Nordic region. I like the cold. I relate to that. I don't like hot, sticky, sweaty, humid weather. I lived in Houston, Texas once upon a time, and I was miserable. I was so miserable. It was just so hot and so sticky. So I like the cold. I don't like being cold, but I like the cold. I like that area. There's something very, very pristine. My name means berry. And it's a berry that grows above the Arctic Circle. So there's something about that region, and it's not Finland and Iceland are part of the Nordic region. They're not Scandinavian region. So it's Norway, Sweden, and
Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
Denmark and Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark.
Well, Finland and Iceland are part of the Nordic region, along with the Scandinavian countries of Denmark and Sweden and Norway. But we're just Nordic. But there's something about that area that I really am into. Like there's a park in Iceland. I can't think of the name, but that is one of my favorite parks, and it's pristine. It's beautiful. There's glaciers. It's wacky. I relate more to that. When I went to visit Mongolia, I was very stunned by just the sort of harsh terrain and the beauty of these people. I mean, these are salt of the earth people, very, very nomadic. And I just like it. I'm not a city person. And, recently I had to be in LA. I also had to be in like New York City, and I can't take it. It's just, there's something about my nervous system gets all wonky and I feel crazy. It's not good. It's not good. So I can imagine all
I can't
5G cell towers just getting harangued by it. Yeah.
Yeah, the cities are like a nightmare now with all the AI and surveillance and 5G.
Yeah. And we don't know enough about that stuff. I mean, I don't poo-poo that stuff. I mean, we're using these technologies now. So we have to be mindful about how we engage, utilizing their advantages, but we don't know that much about it, honestly. So I turn all that Wi-Fi stuff off. When it's not in use, it's off. I'm not leaving that on.
Good for you.
Why?
So to wrap this up, Marja, we wanted to ask you and give you the final word. What message?
have to say her work too.
We want to plug your work. What message do you have for the youth out there who are just so confused, lost in the gender nonsense and suicide?
Yeah. Well, that is my suggestion for today's youth, and also for everybody, is to really go in and do the great work, do the shadow work, and start unraveling what was going on for you prenatally and in utero. That's the key right there. And really check out your tribal generational trauma, because everything that is wrong with the matrix begins there. And not to blame the moms, not to blame dads, but for all of us to take responsibility for our behavior, our actions, our unconsciousness, and start doing that excavation, because our archaeological trauma, that tribal, that ancestral generational trauma is at the core of everything that's wrong in the matrix. And those of us who really want to wake up to the truth of who and what we are as infinite loving awareness and consciousness, having this human experience, we have to excrete all that. All that has to be worked through and healed. And it's not going to be healed going into La La Land and getting on these freaking devices and raising our children with these devices and having these co-parent. No, it's not. That's not the way. That is an inversion of our true nature. Okay. And so we can work with all this, and we just need to have the courage to really start that. And, hopefully people can be inspired to really just take the reins of reality in your life and start looking at that.
Yes, well said.
Thank you, Marja Webb.
Thank you so much,
so
you
beautiful.
two.
Yeah.
And Sebastian.
Yeah, he's doing great. He's part of the interview and hanging out with us and enjoying it. So we'll put Marja's work in the link description box, everybody. Her link tree. We'll also do a link to her book. Get her book. There's so much to learn from Marja West.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And
we really appreciate you.
Yeah, for your inspiration. You are a true inspiration and Luv-A-Lutionary. That's why we chose you today, Marja, because you
so
exemplify those.
Thank you for your work in doing this and just stepping up. I know, the learning curve isn't all that fun. I know this one. You have to kind of reinvent yourself again and again to keep up with the sort of technology. But you know what? We're cosmic beings. We got this.
Yeah, we
We
do.
got this. Well, we love you, soul sister over there. Big Luv-A-Lution to you. Keep loving yourself.
I love
And
all
have
you.
a great day.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you for all your great work. Keep it up. And we'll see you soon.
I will.
Love you.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Peace.
Bye-bye. Luv-A-Lution.